Hi, everyone. Emily here from Logistics for Designers. We are having a little bit of technical difficulties here. Marissa was supposed to join us. She is having issues with her internet. So let's see if she can join us. If not, I will go ahead and start. Basically, we're going to have these weekly webinars where we check in with you guys. Oh, we just got a note from Marissa. Yes, she is having technical difficulties. Okay, let's invite her on screen, see if this works. But basically, we want to have these open forums to take your questions and update you on what has kind of happened in the last week and what you need to do for your business to kind of get through everything that's going on with COVID-19. Marissa, anything to add to that?
What's so weird is that when I jump on, you freeze up. It's like I was listening to you for a minute, and then as soon as I log in, I can't hear or see you. So I feel like I might jump out of here and just hang out in the chat. And then if people have questions, I can address them.
Yeah, and then I can invite you on the screen.
Yeah, see, I can't hear you. I'm jumping out.
Okay, great. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to kind of change this up a little bit. I'm going to go through the basics about the PPP. I hope I called it the right thing. I'm going to go through the basics, and then we will take your questions. We have a lot more people on the call right now, so we'll take all your questions at the end, and then we can have Marissa jump back in. She has a lot of experience in interior design and accounting, so she's really the true expert in this. So I want her to take it away with your guys' questions. First off, some main things to know. First off, you have to be considered a small business, which most of our designers are, which in the easiest way to classify that would be 500 people or less. This grant or loan, we should call it, there are details that this loan can actually be forgiven this summer if you meet the qualifications. And as of now, what we know is that 75% of it has to be used for payroll and that you cannot reduce your team. So you can't let anyone on your team go. There are options to use 25% of that for other business costs, which would include rent, mortgage interest, utilities. The loan is a 2-year loan with a 1% interest rate. You would apply with a loan lender, which is backed through your bank or other loan lenders that the government has classified to be able to back this loan. To apply for it, you would need to download the application at treasury.gov. And again, you would have to verify your payroll for the last year so that it is aware what your payroll costs were for last year. And you could use systems like Gusto, QuickBooks Online, whatever you use to process your payroll. You can grab those payroll reports from that system. You could also use your tax records from last year as well, just some way to verify what you've spent on payroll last year. So those are the main things about the loan. Basically, it was created to be able to protect your company and to be able to keep your team and not let anyone go while you might have reduced business or reduced hours. Marissa, do you want to jump in and kind of add anything on your end? Let's see. And I will be quiet while she jumps in. Or do we have any questions so far?
You're totally frozen and I can't hear or see anything.
Okay. Go ahead and answer. If anyone has any specific questions how we can help your business, go ahead and add that on the right-hand screen. Okay, we have no questions. Okay, so I am going to see if there's anything Marissa wanted to add. Oh, here we go. Olivia, do you know what the qualifications may be to not have to give it back versus a loan? Yeah, let's see if Marissa can answer that. From my understanding, okay, just text Marissa to answer that. From my understanding, it's based on what you use it for. So you need to use a majority of it for payroll expenses. Hi.
Hi, it's so weird. I can't see or hear. Yeah.
Okay, let's do it this way. This is perfect. Okay, sorry everyone.
I'll turn it back on to answer the question, but I couldn't even hear the question.
Yeah, so the question is, do you know what the qualifications may be to not have to give it back versus a loan? And what a majority of it needs to be used for payroll, right?
Yeah, 75% of it needs to go to payroll. So, and then the rest can go to rent and utilities, mortgage payments, things like that. So that's a small fraction, but if you're able to get a pretty large loan, then that might actually do the trick for covering you for a portion of that. And then, do you know what the qualifications may be to not have to give it back? You have to make sure that you keep your head count. So if you have 10 FTs at February 15th and you're applying for a loan for that amount of people, then you need to make sure that you maintain that head count. So by June 30th, you have to make sure that you have any employees that you have currently furloughed or laid off, that you actually bring them back by that date in order to get that loan forgiveness, or else they take deductions based on that. There are, of course, different circumstances that they may look at and evaluate for employees that for some reason or another couldn't come back. Like we've actually had clients whose employees, they had to lay off pretty close to the first week, and those employees couldn't stay in their current state, or they had to move away and they couldn't do remote work, or whatever the case is. You'd have to probably fight those cases and say, this is why we didn't bring that particular person back. But for the most part, you have to keep your head count up. We don't know how long it's going to take to get approved for a loan right now. It's not going to be a slow process, unfortunately. And there's, of course, a potential strategy that you could look at when applying for these loans and then actually taking the loan. So I would definitely talk with your tax preparer, your financial advisor, about when to fill out the form right now, try and figure out who's accepting your forms. And then before you actually accept the money, then maybe try and figure out a timeline that works for you. Maybe you want to make that a little bit closer, if possible, to that deadline of June 30th, if you had to let people go already. So it's really a strategy play in terms of that you'd have to talk with your financial advisors on an individual level. And then it would be great if you could see those loans being approved within the next couple of weeks. However, I'm not really counting on that. I feel like it's going to be a little bit longer of a process. And then also, if you applied, and we talked about this a second ago, I don't know if I'm repeating myself for those of you that were on before we had our other technical difficulties. If you applied for the SBA loan, then it would kind of just get lumped into that. So a lot of people haven't even gotten that first SBA loan. So you do not need to take out the entire loan if approved. You can repay it back right away. So if you don't need it, don't use it, of course. So you have I think it's a 6-month window before you even start accruing interest on it. And the interest is so low anyways. So if you do not need to take out the entire loan if approved, you'd have to talk with your lender about how that works. But because I'm sure if you're applying for a certain, you could apply for less, and people would prefer that. So if you had a higher payroll in 2019 and you don't have as high a payroll in 2020 as of February 15th, then go ahead and ask for a reasonable amount with a lower standard, and then you just take, you can take that, you can repay it back really fast. I have a feeling we'll have a second round of this funding or this stimulus, because when legislation passed this, it was already a week after they passed it, and then it was already a week after that that they extended like the shutdown to April 30th instead of April 15th. So things are changing every day. So I feel like they might try and do another injection, in which case they may have additional funds, or they may extend deadlines, things like that. Who knows? But everything would have to go through Congress again. That's a great question. So you can, I believe, apply for PPP, and you can apply for SBA. So for a lot of those individuals as sole proprietors, if you can justify what you pay yourself, for a sole proprietor, independent contractor, wages, commissions, or income capped at $100,000 on an annualized basis for each employee. So yeah, there is something open to this loan for yourself. And so, yes, I would apply for it. And I would also apply for the SBA loan. Let's do right now. I really think that focusing on your growth and not losing sight of that is going to be critical, because we don't know how long this is going to last. So for a designer, the other things that they could do right now, aside from just needing cash fast, would be to figure out your 2020 strategy and figuring out how you need to pivot. But I'm sure everybody here has probably already gone through that analysis and thought process. But I'm also just going to say this, just in case people haven't already done their contingency plans. Interior design, I don't think was directed in like the first, or affected as much in the first wave of the economic downturn, but I do feel like it will see a bigger hit in the second turn. So just be prepared for that, and then have new strategies in the pipeline. I have another question. Is the PPP loan the same as the CARE loan? So the CARE Act includes a bunch of different ways of spending on that stimulus, and the PPP is just a part of that. It is the most relevant part to most employers, which is why we're covering it. But so the CARE Act has more to it. It's basically tells you what you're going to be spending, for example, or what they're putting cash into to stimulate the economy. For example, there's like one part of the CARE Act that says you can actually pull from your 401k for less penalties and taxes if you have that kind of a plan. Be careful, because if you have a 401k that you're trying to draw from right now because you need cash immediately, you should definitely talk to whoever managed your 401k to get the specifics, because that, even though it's in the CARE Act, it doesn't apply to all 401ks, but that's just an example of the different things that are in the CARE Act. If you Google like CARE Act, and Forbes came out with a really good article. So like Google CARE Act Forbes, you'll find like a really good list of highlights of the things that the CARE Act is going to do for an injection into the economy. The other part of the CARE Act is the payroll credits. So we'll get into that in in a couple of weeks after things kind of the dust settles on this urgent thing, because if you haven't already applied for the PPP loan, then you'll know that a lot of banks are already shutting down because of the volume of requests that they shutting down on applications because the volume of requests that they've already received. So we actually have a giant list of lenders. It's a crowdsourced list that continually gets updated on who's still accepting applications. So if you guys wanted to apply for that, we could send you that resource. Just reach out to Emily and she can send that over to you. Yeah, so we're dealing with a lot of those right now. And then this on the second, in the second coming weeks, like in the second month to the next coming weeks, we'll probably, she put in an email, we'll probably be addressing the different credits, and hopefully we can get our CPA on here to discuss some of that. But if you guys aren't Gusto users already, I just, I love them, and I think that they're doing a great job trying to stay ahead of this and giving resources and tools and things like that. So if you have Gusto already, just constantly be checking their resources and their Gusto hub. I can't advocate that enough. Their Gusto hub has been great. And then if you haven't, or if you don't use Gusto and you want to start, great, we can help you with that. Are there any other questions? I feel like I'm talking to myself here, sorry, since Emily's frozen on my screen. Sure, so I mean, I can pretty much help you with whatever you need. I'm trying to make myself very available to any of our customers, our clients during this time. So I'm addressing very specific requests. People are calling me and saying, yeah, I understand this, but what about, how would that work with my business? So I'm going and I'm looking at individual requests and personalizing them. I can put together game plans for you. We can talk about scenarios. We can talk about cash flow. It's really, I like what Emily's posting in here. I feel like you really need a financial advisor more than ever right now, because this is about weathering the storm. This is about who can hang in there the longest. What can you do to get help today in order to be successful tomorrow? And I think that some of our coaching strategies could be beneficial, and just reaching out to your bookkeeper to give more financial advice, and then just keeping a really close look on your financials and your numbers and your KPIs, and keeping your eye on the growth for 2020 and not focusing 100% of your energy into the struggle that is today. Those are all really critical things. Did that answer? I don't know whose question it was, but did that answer your guys' question? Yeah, cash right now is gonna really benefit you when you're trying to wait this storm out. Putting more expenses on credit. That's a little bit of a general. You want as much cash right now as possible. Putting more expenses on a credit, that's a case-by-case basis, because you obviously don't want to be stuck in a couple of months with all this debt that you are unable to pay off. And you don't want to incur more liabilities now when the future is a little bit more uncertain. However, I would say what you should be doing, if you haven't done it already, is obviously, reaching out to some of your vendors for different credits. We actually partner with a legal team that came out with a really great video on how best to negotiate those type of terms. Whether it's giving your vendors, reaching out to your vendors and requesting a longer lead time for payment, even if the goods are delivered, or it depends. I wouldn't go crazy on your credit card, no, but there are ways around that. But you do want to have as much cash as possible right now, and a good strategy in place. Okay. Emily, I'm gonna take you off mute I'm gonna mute myself on the computer and then put you on my phone, so you can ask me anything.
Okay. Hey. Okay. I think I'm just checking if there's any other questions. Does anyone have any other questions before we wrap up? I know there's a lot of information out there right now, a lot of different resources. We have an internal list. If you guys need us to email that to you, feel free. You might also have someone that you're already working with to figure all this out, but feel free to reach out to us. Any other questions? Okay, thank you everyone for your questions.
Can you attach documents on here?
Yeah, I think you can.
How would you do that?
We can do that after. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Let's do that after, and people can come back here to access the attachment.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so if there's not any other questions, we're gonna wrap it up. Every week we'll have these quick 30-minute live events where you guys can ask your questions. So feel free to email us in advance if there's anything you want us to specifically cover. We're here to help you. So thank you, everyone. We appreciate you attending, and sorry for the technical difficulties. We'll try to figure it out for next week. Bye.